The 2018 Apple Watch Series 4 just might be the most insane deal on an Apple Watch in 2023, boasting the essentials and more for under $100 USD on the used market. And so is this the cheapest way to own a fully supported, well-functioning Apple Watch, or is it all a facade? Let's find out, starting with the design. And by the way, timestamps are in the description if you'd like to see something specific. So in terms of design, it's really not that much different from what we're seeing nowadays. Just a black square with a display on the front and digital crown and power button on the side. Although there are a few very minor differences compared to more modern variants, with the most obvious one being the slightly larger bezels on the display. So quite a small change, and unless you're into tech specs, it's pretty easy to look over. The Series 4 comes in two sizes, being 40 and 44mm, the smaller one of course being better for people with smaller wrists or a lower budget, and then the larger one is easier to use, but it might set you back just a tad more depending on your local prices. In general though, both sit really comfortably just like any other watch, and it doesn't feel like you're carting an ocean liner around on your wrist, with the smaller 40mm size weighing just 30 grams and the 44mm being 36 grams, at least in terms of the aluminium case like I have here. If you go for stainless steel, it's going to be a tad heavier, but not really anything noticeable. Now the other good news is that no matter what band you have, what year it's from, it's universally compatible with every single Apple Watch generation. You just have to get the right size, small or large, so even if you're upgrading from the Series 4, you can take your old watch band with you to your new one. Now on the side, we get our power button and digital crown, both of which have essential functions to the watch. The power button will show you your background apps and turn off the watch, and then the digital crown has many uses such as scrolling through menus, zooming in and out, going into your apps page by pressing it, activating Siri by holding it, and even playing with the Earth's time zones on the Earth watch face, not to mention top-notch haptic feedback as you turn it. Also, the power button on the Series 4 sits nice and flush with the body, unlike on the Series 3 and before, where it sticks out. It just looks a tad cleaner on here. On the other side of the watch, we get the speaker and microphone, and then on the bottom, you've got your heart rate sensor and wireless charging spot, along with the text that tells you what variant of watch it is, which is seen on all Apple Watches and is presented in quite a luxurious way. Oh, and the body of the Series 4 is also water resistant up to 50 meters, meaning that you can take it in the shower, in the pool, and it doesn't matter at all if you spill a drink on it. Although if there's any cracks in the screen, I would definitely avoid water at all costs, because obviously the seal is broken. What's better though is that after you've finished in the pool or shower or whatever it is, dropping it down the loo, you can press this little water eject button in the control center and the watch will play a vibration and eject any water that's built up in the speaker. Pretty cool. Now coming back to the front of the Apple Watch Series 4, we have our OLED Retina display, which is good enough for most people, but being 5 years old at this point, it doesn't have absolutely everything, and even one fatal flaw which I'll get to in a minute. But with a resolution of 368 by 448 on the 44mm and 324 by 394 on the 40mm, it's super crispy and you can't see any pixels from a normal viewing distance. I mean, you can start to make them out if you look closely, but from the length that your wrist is from your face, it's as sharp as it can get. Plus, colors look super vibrant and just seem to pop out at you, especially thanks to the OLED display, which allows individual pixels to be turned on and off as needed. So any blank area of the screen is going to be a deep true black, which is essential to ensure maximum contrast for such a small screen. Now the screen also gets pretty bright, maxing out at 1000 nits, so you'll always be able to see what you're doing when you're out in the sun. Although it is worth noting that the new Apple Watch Series 9 has double that at 2000 nits, so a little bit of a step up. Now when it comes to what size of display you should go for, if you have large fingers or you want to be able to see things better, you definitely benefit from going with the 44mm one, but it is also worth noting that the 40mm isn't that much harder to use. Plus the screen behaves exactly how an iPad or iPhone screen does, super responsive and buttery. It's got all the characteristics of an iPhone screen, just shrunken down a lot. Although as I said before, it is missing a few modern touches. The bezels are again a little thicker, but not by that much, and unlike on the Series 5 and later, there's no always on display, so you can't just glance down at the time or notifications, you have to actually flick your wrist up or press the screen to turn it on. Damn, the struggles we go through. In its defense though, the Series 4 was actually the first Apple Watch to have the screen sit flush with the corners. On the Series 3 and older, there is a very obvious square showing the boundaries of the actual display component. Looks a little messy, but here it sits a lot more naturally with the rounded corners. Now I did say before that the display has one fatal flaw, and that's just how damn fragile the screen is. I used to own a Series 3 a few years ago, and after like 6 months of use, it had so many marks and scratches despite me never actually dropping it or smacking it into anything. And the same goes for any Apple Watch actually, so I highly advise you to invest in a case or screen protector. Trust me, it will go a very long way. You know what else will go a long way though? Getting unlimited high-speed mobile data for just $15 a month from today's video partner, Mint Mobile. Mint Mobile allows you to get affordable unlimited 5G data for as low as $15 a month instead of $30 without sacrificing any coverage, speed, or data like so many other cheap and nasty brands make you do. And plus, Ryan Reynolds owns the company, something you definitely cannot flex about your current mobile plan.
Hey there, it's Ryan Reynolds, owner of Mint Mobile. Enticing, right?
Mint Mobile keeps costs low by selling online instead of in person, which cuts out the cost of retail stores, and yet it's the largest mobile network in the US. With Mint Mobile, you can't notice a single bit of difference in speeds compared to mainstream services, whether that be YouTube, games, or simply just reading the news or browsing the web. And their sign-up process is just as quick as their mobile service, taking just 15 minutes to switch carriers via eSIM, or if your phone isn't eSIM compatible, they'll ship you a physical one for free. There's 1,440 minutes in a day, so why not just spend 10 of those signing up for Mint Mobile using this QR code or via the link in the description. In doing that, you're getting again 50% off an already insane deal for unlimited 5G data. And thank you so much again to Mint Mobile and of course Ryan Reynolds for partnering with me for this video. And now let's move on to the inside of the Apple Watch Series 4 and take a look at what kind of features it's missing out on compared to more recent models. Well, there's a pretty large number of gizmos that you're going to get with later models and not the Series 4, but I've compiled a list of the most important ones, and they are an always-on display and compass on the Series 5 and later, a blood oxygen sensor and more than 16 gigs of storage on the Series 6 and later, fast charging on the Apple Watch Series 7 and later, crash detection and temperature sensor for sleep tracking and cycle prediction on the Series 8 and later, and then on the latest Series 9, you're getting on-device Siri, so you can even use Siri offline, and it's also got quite possibly the best Apple Watch feature to date, Double Tap, which allows you to turn on the display just by tapping your index finger and thumb together. Super high tech, it's amazing it can do that, and it's really useful if your other hand is full, and again, probably the most useful Apple Watch addition to date in my opinion. So yeah, you are missing quite a few knickknacks compared to models even like 1 or 2 years after the Series 4, but it still packs the essentials and much more, like waterproofness and heart rate tracker on the outside, and then on the inside you've got all the classic Apple Watch functions like making calls, sending messages, setting alarms and timers, receiving notifications, fitness functions, emails, and of course, telling the time. So it's not like the Series 4 is lacking in the essentials or anything, it absolutely isn't, and is still a very feature-rich device, especially for one that just sits on your wrist. So don't be fooled by its age or the gizmos that newer models offer, because for the average Joe and tech spec nerd alike, the Series 4 is no slouch when it comes to its built-in features and conveniences. Now in terms of the performance, this is yet another win for the Apple Watch Series 4. On here we get the Apple S4 chipset and 1GB of RAM. Because you're not exactly designing aircraft in 3D on your Apple Watch, but rather checking the weather and tracking your fitness, the experience on here is still super smooth. You can swipe around and scroll with no lag, and apps open instantaneously. It still feels pretty brand new. Now yes, newer watches with faster chipsets will feel smoother, but all that means is it'll take maybe 1 more second quicker to open apps, etc. if you compare side by side. It's not really what you'd call a real world difference. Yes, the chipset is 5 years old, and no, it's not any kind of powerhouse, but for something that's just on your wrist, it's got enough power and more. For 99% of people, it's going to feel just as fast as the Series 8. However, one of the drawbacks to having an Apple Watch that's 5 years old is that it won't last nearly as long as newer models in terms of software updates and app compatibility in the near future. The Series 4 is the oldest Apple Watch to support the latest watchOS 10, which means it has at least until the September of 2024 before it's cut off, although it's pretty likely to lose support after that. This means that for another year at least, you're guaranteed to have all the latest software features and perfect app compatibility, but after it most likely gets cut off in a year's time, it will begin a slow descent into obsolescence. Slowly but surely over the years, third-party apps and connectivity with your iPhone in general will become a lot more buggy and less seamless, although built-in stuff like fitness features, timers, messages, and making calls should still work fine for years to come. There's no minimum version of watchOS to pair with a newer iPhone, although do keep in mind that you can't pair a newer version of watchOS with an older version of iOS, the iPhone software. Basically, the Series 4 is guaranteed to have maximum compatibility with apps until the September of next year, maybe even for another year after that if we're lucky, but I highly doubt it will get watchOS 11. The previous Series 3 got 5 years of updates from 2017 to 2022, so the Series 4 has already broken that record as of this year, so it wouldn't be at all surprising for it to max out at watchOS 11 and 6 years of support. But despite that, it should still work trouble-free for like 2 to 3 years more after that before you start running into compatibility issues. So while it's not a good solution for like over 3 years down the line, with it being as cheap and old as it is, 2 to 3 years of smooth use from now is a decent chunk of time. But perhaps it's not the longevity you should be concerned about, it might actually be the battery life. The batteries on these older Apple Apple Watches have had years to degrade, meaning that they won't be able to hold a charge as they did back when they were new. But if your battery health in settings is in the late 80s or above, it should still last all day. But anything below that, and you may find yourself having to walk around with a useless hunk of glass and metal strapped to your wrist for the rest of the day. If you're just a light user though, you're not sort of on the watch all the time, it's just kind of running in the background, giving you notifications, it should still be okay. I mean, this one I have here is on 78% battery health, which normally would be considered god awful. But from 9:30 this morning, all the way until 1 AM when I'm recording this voiceover, it's only gone down to 46%. Yeah, my sleep schedule is not the best. Over 12 hours being off the charger, and it's only just used up 50% of its power. Now yes, I didn't actually use it that much, it was just sort of in the background, but it still does go to show that its standby time is still actually really capable. But of course, low battery health is not ideal. It is something you want to avoid when picking one of these up, and do keep in mind that the 44mm model with its bigger battery will generally give you more use time than a 40mm. And so with everything about the Apple Watch Series 4 now out of the way, is this the ultimate budget Apple Watch in 2023? Well, considering it's got a great display, premium build, a rich set of gizmos to keep you entertained for hours, snappy performance, and not to mention another year of software support, it's honestly an absolute cracker of a deal. At under $100 USD, you're just getting so much. And if you're on a budget, or you're looking to try an Apple Watch for the first time, or maybe you just want a cheap, solid fitness tracker, there aren't really many better options out there than a second-hand Apple Watch Series 4. It's pretty insane. Although if you're planning to keep your watch for years and years down the line, like over 5 years, or you're a heavy user, or you want all the latest bells and whistles, then a newer model will probably be your best bet. For what it is though, it's kind of insane how you can get such a capable, fully supported Apple Watch for under $100 USD used. Now the Apple Watch Series 5, the one that came after the Series 4, isn't that much more than the 4, and with that you're getting an always-on display and better longevity, but I'd say it's not as insane of a deal as the Series 4. All in all, it's a terrific budget smartwatch. It's got everything you need and more for super cheap. Just watch out for bad battery health and excessive wear and tear, and you've found yourself a darn good deal. If you enjoyed this video or found it useful, please make sure you drop me a like and subscribe to TechSpree for more reviews, insights, and the occasional unboxing. Also, if you'd like to have a stalk, my Instagram is at tech_spree and my Twitter is at techspree1. Thank you so much for watching. This is Tom with TechSpree, and I'll see you as always next time.